that the Door County Board of County Commissioners are conducting a special meeting Wednesday, May 31st. It's 10:02. Dallas.
Mr. Thayer.
Here.
Mr. Richardson. Mr. Wilcox.
Here. All right, if we could do the pledge of allegiance and
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Dallas. You can sit a short prayer.
Okay. Father, have we come to you today and we're reminded of the beautiful place that you've created for us to live. The wonderful springtime weather we're experiencing, we're thankful for that. We're thankful for the moisture that you sent. Father, this past weekend we've celebrated a solemn remembrance for our country, Father. And we remember those who have died for the ideals and beliefs in this country. We thank you for them. Father, we just pray that you'll comfort their families in this time of remembrance and time of grieving. Father, be with us now as we proceed in this meeting. It can be orderly, it can be one of mutual respect, Father, that business can be done for the county. It's in Christ I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Morning, everyone. Called this meeting specifically to continue forward with looking at purchasing the bank building here in Kiowa. So what we'll do is, I think, to start, Grant, you want to do a motion for that, and then we'll go through a discussion. And
I can do that.
if
I move that we explore and consider the purchase of the Bank of the West building.
you can second it. And prior to voting, what we'll do is we'll go through discussion, and I think in this, what I think we both wanted to go over some of the stuff that's been done through this process, been completed. So we've got quite a bit here, but I think what we'll do is I'll take each tab, just outline it, and we'll go over it, kind of identify certain things that we've done through our due diligence period, and then we'll have an opportunity. I'll give you folks the opportunity to speak. And with that, we'll end it with a vote and go from there. So, first part, as we went through, we had the purchase sales agreement. It was the first part of it. The sales agreement was kind of specific in that it really limited, and based on that contract, it really limited what we could release information-wise. It was, so we were really kind of bound by their contract, not being able to release a lot of information regarding a lot of the due diligence that we had done. So after this, our intent is to, once this gets completed, is to release everything we have, everything that we are able to release it all and post it on the information contained in this process. So that was the first step. Grant, do you have any comments on that?
No, it was a very straightforward commercial type of a purchase and sale agreement. And the most important thing is it was a base price that was included, but more importantly, it was giving us adequate time to do what I could consider very important due diligence. And I think that this is what Danny was referring to as we go through this list here. Much of what we're going to talk about is the due diligence issues, items, findings, that kind of thing.
Okay. Next part, second tab, we've got two tabs of kind of air quality testing. We conducted air quality testing and then radon tests, a number of radon tests. And the limits, we were slightly above limits, and they believe it was due to the building being closed up for such a period of time. And no ventilation, nothing. We have updated tests that we ran for, I don't remember the period, which showed acceptable limits.
Yeah, that was the recent test.
That was the most recent test, and we had a chance to kind of open it up and air things out a little bit. And the most recent test came back with, within limits. So we're there, but we'll continue to monitor that in the event this goes through. Anything on that, Grant?
Not really, as there was no surprises there on the air quality and that. And the air quality testing also included, a mold and spore test and all of those kind of things, and they were all found to be within acceptable limits.
Mold indicated we didn't have any leakage. You could see any water residue, so it was, that was concerning, and there wasn't any, so that was a good thing. Next one, survey. I don't know if you want to go through.
Well, the one thing that I want to point out in the survey is, of course, there's a site plan for the building and that, but what we're considering purchasing is a little over 2 acres. So there's going to be about well over an acre of undeveloped land there, which will be an asset that we'll have to consider in the future what we might do with it. Should we subdivide it and sell it as a property? Should we make it a very large parking lot? There's a lot of different options, as each of you here knows. Right adjacent to that, the undeveloped acreage part of this is the elderly people's home there. So it looks like it's a good location for something in the future. And if you say, Grant, what is something? I just mean something. I don't know. We don't have a plan, but it's a marketable, usable asset, and we'll just have to evaluate that as we go forward. And then there's all the deeds and things like that, and our attorneys reviewed those, and they're probably, not probably, they'll have to address it, but what he's advised us is they're acceptable.
Okay, then on to next step was the appraisal.
The appraisal was interesting because when I first read it out, it was $515,000. And the thing that's interesting about the methodology used by the appraiser evaluated this as is. And so, as most of you are well aware, Lossell, Keynes, and Litchwood just sold, and it's a much smaller building than this, just closed for $800,000. So you can back calculate a per square foot, and if you use that per square foot on this building, the appraisal would have been much higher. So being a numbers guy, none of this made sense to me. So I went back in and reread their appraisal, and what they did is they come up with a number and then back out all of the commercial inspection items that were in. For example, they said in 2 years the roof will probably need to be replaced. They said there was a list of things, and they ranged from the simplest one is the toilets weren't, what do you call it, ADA?
ADA accessible.
$200 to change out the stool. So anyway, if you put that list back on top, it would get back to something roughly equivalent to what other comps are. So the fact that it come in as is, with all of the deductions already in place, it's still coming in $515,000. It's above what our offering price was. So that gave me some confidence, and now we'll have budget issues going forward, is because we're buying the building at less than what per square footage in the comps would be. It gives us an opportunity to, in a methodical way, make those upgrades.
We did send a counter proposal back to the tune of $12,000. About $5. And they essentially ignored the counter. They told us that they were going to deal with it. The price is as is. Buy the building for that. So they essentially just told us no. So that took our negotiating power. We couldn't negotiate anymore based on the inspections, so. Is that on to the appraisal, the commercial inspection? We went through, we had everything, pretty much everything inspected. That commercial inspection ranged over a period of, I think, up to 5 years. They took it, I think there was items in there that they looked at over a 5-year time frame. So immediate attention, there was only, I think, just safety items, small things, and I think that was to the tune of about 12 grand. And I think that's for those safety items that they considered CO detectors, stuff like that, ADA accessible, toilets that are compliant to current standards, stuff like that. That was the stuff that was initially immediate concerns. They looked at HVAC systems. They looked at those over a 3-year period, I believe. That was extended out. They calculate on an average lifespan of your HVAC systems, and we're at towards the end, and they're looking at possible replacement in 3 to 5 years. So we have to, what Grant had mentioned, we have to look at the possibility of some of those, replacing those in the future. The roof, I think the roof came through 3 years.
Yeah, they said it's adequate, but it's during its
Mhm.
normal lifespan, and I'm not making sense. Their projected lifespan of a roof is 15 years, and this is in the 12th or 13th year of it. It's not leaking,
No,
but it's,
no leakage. Now in this area with the hail and everything, that could come, who knows? See, so with that inspection, we thought, pretty good. We thought we were dealing with a pretty decent building. Structurally, it was sound. Everything looked good. Basement was good. There's no cracks, because, I mean, it's a solid building. So, actually, and I have to say, based on my walks through the building, I expected to see things much more worn. I guess that's kind of the word I can use. When I first walked through the building, I was surprised to see that it's a generally pretty decent condition. It really was, even for the age. So, anyway, with that takes care of the inspection. Any more to add on that?
I really don't. Building was built in 1981 or 82, something like that. So it's not surprising that.
Was it in the 80s?
Yeah.
Was it? Okay.
So the idea that we may have a crack in the sidewalk, that stuff didn't worry me as much as I was really worried about foundation issues.
Yes.
And you don't have to be much of an engineer to notice if you have foundation issues, because you just walk around with walls and it tells you the story. And there was none.
They did mention the parking lot.
They did mention the
Parking lot, which was a significant amount of the cost. But look at our parking lot out here, I don't think it's much different than what we're dealing with over there. So I think we're kind of in the same shape there. So with that, we'll go on to utilities cost analysis. I didn't.
Yeah, one of the things, just before we get there, we might talk one more thing about the due diligence. One of the reasons why we delayed this issue from last Wednesday's meeting is we didn't have all of our due diligence in. And the one piece that we were missing was a phase 1 environmental study. And if somebody wants to read this, they're welcome to do it. I went through it this morning, because we just got it, yesterday afternoon, something like that?
Yesterday.
I went through it this morning, and it's clean. There was, the only warning was the same warning that was in the commercial inspection, and that was that the ceiling in one of the rooms has got, I call it popcorn stuff on it in the ceiling, and there's some belief that that contains 2% crystalline asbestos, 5%. There was none of it in the air. There was, that's de minimis, but it's a warning that if we go and do some construction in there, that we'll have to have a white suit guy come in and inspect the air. So, it's small, it's low percentage, but we can't be naive, it's there. And we've got more asbestos in this building, in this room, than they have over there. But as far as the rest of the due diligence, it was just, and we've already talked about a lot of it, the radon test, the air quality test, and all those things. There was no flags that even raised a modest level of concern.
You know, that phase one environmental study did a history search of the property and surrounding properties to see, and they look for spills, contamination, anything. And they went back, I think they could go back, what I was told, 45 years. Is how far they get, that's where they can get data, how far back they can go to mine data and see if we have any concerns. So actually at that time, we were advised that we probably wouldn't need to do the phase one environmental study. However, we chose to complete this study to the tune of, initially it was told we were at $15,000. And then we found that we got a sufficient study for about $2,500, $2,600, I believe, right? No, we were okay. And it was good, and it'll help us for the future in the event if we sell the building, if we do any modifications or anything else. It kind of covers our bases.
So and again, the environmental study, there's so much detail in it. The only concern that they brought up was Jack Pemberton's gas station there was.
Yeah.
And also the one that was across the road. And he said there's no record of any contamination even when they removed the tanks. But and then they kind of wrote it all away because it was quite a ways away from the bank building and it was down structure. So if there was going to be a problem, it would be in this building, not the bank building.
So anyway, covered that. We did a analysis on the move expense, and we analyzed what utilities run, the costs. We've gone through that. I don't actually have the specifics, or remember. I read through it, but I don't remember the specifics. I really didn't cover that as well.
The utility costs are about what you would have expected for a building that
For
size.
a building that size, it was comparable. There was nothing, based on history, there was nothing out of line.
Yeah, there was no warning there that, that they were burning way more natural gas than you'd expect for heating and those kind of things. So that again, is more reassurance that the
That
building
goes
is.
back to, that goes back to the HVAC. I was concerned about the HVAC systems being economically sound, and so that kind of, there were no issues there. The move expense, we looked at that, and if one of you could, do you remember? I don't remember how much. It wasn't that significant. There was, anybody have any comments on the
Do you want me to run through it?
Yeah, if you could.
Sure. IT infrastructure, security, computer, telephones, cabling, network. We looked at remodeling, lock sets, office remodels, lighting, which is very minor. It's pretty move-in ready. ADA compliance, sidewalks, water fountains, bathrooms, and in the future, elevator. HVAC, we have duct cleaning and some minor repairs. And then the site, parking lot, driveway, roof, and siding. So some of those items are pushed off to 5 years in the budget.
Right.
Immediate 2017 costs, we're looking at about $102,000
Okay.
for those items.
And that's primarily dealing with the IT stuff, cabling and networking.
That is
Yeah, that's
the
six-
I think that's 60 or 70,000.
And the security
And the
for
security.
elections and, yeah.
Because that was one of the things we planned on conducting elections over there in that building now, which was one of the major reasons that it is gonna be advantageous for us to have that. So, with that, I don't know if you see anything else on that? Brandon?
No, the only thing is we got some structural things that we'll need to do some appropriations and some budget allocations and those kind of things. There's go through in my mind anyway. After I read that appraisal for the second and third time to make sure I understood it, I feel like we've got great support for the valuations. And those of you that have attended past meetings will remember that every time the question of the building was brought up by different people of staff, is the questions that I asked more than once is make sure that we've got a complete due diligence package. And I'm comfortable that we have that. And if anybody wishes to discuss specific items when we go to the public comment, we certainly will be willing to discuss them because we need to have confidence that if we go ahead with this, we're doing the right thing, are doing a well reviewed, analyzed activity. And aside from that, that's all I have.
Okay. Well, that's what I'll do. Chris Richardson had written an email to us, and I read it at the last meeting, and I'll read it because he's in support of the bank building. He's not aware of all the stuff that we had considered. And here's his email. He says, "No, I'm not present to cast a vote on this issue. I wanted my thoughts captured in our records. I support the purchase of this vacant Kiowa Bank of the West building. It represents a rare opportunity to address a known requirement at a price we cannot match in any other way. Appraisal indicates we are purchasing this asset at under market value, and the staff's due diligence efforts indicate nothing that should concern us. When we have a chance to obtain a 10,000 square foot in close proximity, building in close proximity to the courthouse for $50 a square foot, when the nearby Castle Rock is building a 14,000 square foot addition at $5.1 million, the cost benefit analysis is clear. This is a prudent move." And that was his email that he wanted read. One other comment I'd like to make. We have $500,000. Okay, and I'll tell you, the one thing I don't want to do, in Elbert County at this period of time, this $500,000, I'm comfortable with moving it into buying an asset and not incurring any more debt. Because in a way, other than annual stuff, maintenance and stuff like that, we don't incur long-term debt. So I'm literally taking $500,000 cash, I'm moving it from cash to purchase an asset that in time I should be able to sell off. But the one thing it doesn't do in this county, and at this time, it doesn't incur any more debt for us. And that's one of the things I really place a lot on, is that we can incur debt at this point in time because we are still going through a recovery phase. And I think this is the best option that we have, and we've been presented with this. I think we're fortunate to be presented with this, to have this opportunity to increase our space when we truly need it. So
I'd like to make one other comment, is that if you come from the background I have, assets that are not being adequately utilized have to be reviewed, analyzed, and perhaps disposed of. One of the things is we own a house. What do you call it? Who house? Yeah, and I'm not quite sure what that is, if that's a Halloween name or what, but the thing is that it's way underutilized. It is not adaptable to what we're talking about here, but part of what's going on right now is HHS, yeah, are utilizing this Who House for some of their activities right now. And based on their plans and their balance sheet that they have for money that they've already put together, they want to do something over by their current facility. What we've talked about, and I think once we get all these pieces put together, we will sell that place. And the reason is it's what from the background I have, I call it a stranded asset. We own it, it's there, we have to pay not service fees, maintenance fees and all of these kinds of things on it. So, and I'm not quite sure what it's worth, but informal discussions with different real estate people, what did they tell us? 260? 260, something like that. And so we can use that money will help offset half the cost of this building also. So again, managers try and utilize their assets in a very productive way, shuffle your assets to make them more productive. And this is part of an ongoing evaluation of assets that we own and will own perhaps.
Okay, Ed, like you said. So with that, what we'll do is, give no more comments over here. No, public comment. No. Don? Okay.
Don Draper, 28734 County Road 17, Elizabeth. The only question I've got, and I'm not questioning your inspection of this. At the present time, if I'm not mistaken, we don't have a building inspector in the county. Now,
We do.
We do now?
Yes.
Okay, now, has our own building inspector inspected the building?
We decided that we wouldn't use our own bid because we wanted a complete third party, because for us, as commissioners anyway, the idea of people being able to criticize us by having people that perhaps had a bias.
I understand that.
So that's the reason why we've used all third party people for this.
That means
It's at a greater cost, but I think that
More
what's this word that they like, transparency?
Okay, it gets rid of the inside job, so to speak.
Right, sir.
But I was just curious if our building inspector that we have in the county would approve, of what you found. That's my only question.
It's a good question, and we hadn't asked it. We wanted to have all third party without bias.
That satisfies my question. Thank you.
Okay, Don, thank you. Irene?
Our building inspector has been involved. He's been a part of this team. He's been in the building several times, and he's added value to things we should look for, ask for in our due diligence. So he has been in there.
So I was somewhat misinformed,
Okay.
or didn't listen closely enough, I guess. Any other questions? Now's your chance.
What we will do is we'll put as much as this as we can. We post as much as this as we can on the website.
Then maybe following closing. So as far as, I noticed in our confidentiality provisions
Well,
in the purchase and sale agreement, it does talk about following closing, but it also talks about the Colorado Open Records Law. So we have a closing set for June 13th. I just want to point that out.
If there's no further public comment, what I'd like to do is withdraw my motion because it really isn't specific to the building. It was just it's cause discussion.
right.
And I know it's kind of cumbersome, but I wanted to make sure that we had adequate discussion before we made a motion, or an appropriate motion. And that's it.
Well, after that, you made a motion to,
My motion was to consider the material.
Okay,
We've done
now that we've done that, we've considered the material now. You want to make a motion?
Yes. I'm not quite sure how to word this, but I move that we continue on within the provisions of the purchase and sale agreement for the Bank of the West building in Kiowa, and we strive to complete the transaction on the 13th, is that right?
13th of
June
June.
13th of June. And then after that, I'll make a separate motion with respect to signatory powers and that kind of stuff.
I think that's contained in the resolution.
So then, should we just use the resolution?
I think we should use the
Then I withdraw
resolution.
that motion also. I move that we adopt resolution authorizing the completion of the purchase and closing of the Bank of the West property in Kiowa, Colorado. Within this resolution is the recognition of the fact that at this point we don't have an active county manager, and it includes a provision in there where Danny Wilcox would have the authority to sign the documents. There's other minor stuff in here, as the chair of the county commissioners, there's other detail in here, but that's the material part of it, is having the signatory authority and providing authorization for the completion of the purchase and closing of the bank hospital. That's my motion.
It's your motion.
Yes.
It's a long list.
Yeah.
I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, with that, folks, motion to adjourn.
I so move.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you, folks, very much.